Hey guys, so today I'll be going through the SportShift Gearbox again. I've had a number of comments and some customers saying, obviously, what are the tips and tricks of using the SportShift Gearbox to sort of maximise longevity and reduce clutch wear and sort of prolong the clutch life of the SportShift system. So yeah, without further ado, let's just start up the car real quick. So again, like I said before, neutral light will be flashing, and that will be basically just telling you, just wait a few seconds for the clutch to learn and prime the clutch plate. So obviously that just measures the distance or the sort of biting point off the clutch, friction plate and the flywheel. So if you don't wait until the neutral light goes out, you might end up wearing the clutch a bit, because it can be worn out if it doesn't have that sort of learning program. But yeah, but overall really nice to drive. This is the SportShift 2 gearbox, obviously, so I'll go through details a bit more in depth. So the SportShift 1 gearbox, or sort of the ASM gearbox, which is auto shift manual, came on the it came on the Mark 1 Vanquish, and then you had the SportShift 1 gearbox, which came out on the 2005 Vantage, the SportShift 2, which came out on the 2011 Vantage S, and then on 2012.5 models the SportShift came standard, SportShift 2, and then the SportShift 3 was the final iteration, coming exclusively on the V12 Vantage and V12 S. Or basically, yeah, when the V12S came out. So the SportShift was a 6-speed, SportShift 2 and 3 were the 7-speed, the SportShift 1 had a 6-speed single clutch automated manual, the 2 had a 7-speed, so they added an extra cog or an extra ratio for that, and then the SportShift 3 had the twin plate clutch 7-speed. But yeah, sounds absolutely phenomenal. Get a bit of wheel spin as well when you do like to put your foot down a bit. But when the car is warm, like it is now, it's up to operating temperature with the gearbox oil as well. It's relatively smooth to drive, but then again, being a single clutch robot manual, you do feel quite a bit of a pulse, and yeah. But basically a few tips and tricks are you have to treat it like a manual. It doesn't roll as per se, or reverse sort of creep. You have to tell it what to do, so you have to give it some throttle input for it to actually start coasting and creeping, just like a regular manual basically. And obviously the SportShift 2 gave us the addition of the hill sort of hold assist. So when you have your foot on the brake, the sort of gearbox is in its hold mode. And yeah, you also had a taller reverse gear as well, which meant that when you were sort of ascending or reversing up a hill or an incline, the clutch wouldn't get burnt out as much, because obviously it has a taller reverse gear. It almost has the I think biting point of the first or second gear it was. So obviously massive improvement over SportShift 1 gearbox, a bit smoother, but then again you will notice, you feel this lurch, you feel the pulse because obviously you obviously hear a thump as well, or a sort of loud bang on the gearbox, and that is basically the clutch or friction plate smacking the flywheel in rapid succession. But also another tip is nice. So like I said, first tip was wait for neutral light to go out. The second tip I would suggest is also treat it as a manual, in the respect that when you're on a hill, you want to be putting the handbrake up. Even with a hill hold assist, it might not be enough. But yeah, really nice. But sorry, like I was saying, you want to be putting the handbrake up and putting the vehicle's weight on the handbrake, and then giving it some acceleration on that biting point, because if you use the gearbox's weight to try and go up a hill, you will significantly burn the clutch. So again, like I said, you want to be putting the handbrake up, giving the car some revs, and then let go and try and ping it. which is nice. And like I said, I suggest not to particularly reverse the SportShift gearbox up a hill. It's a bit better to do it in a full-on 6-speed manual car, as per se. But yeah, another tip also is to use the sport mode here, which as you'll know, robot manuals or gearboxes do not have a park gear. They don't have a physical park gear, at least. So in effect, what you have to do is you click the sport mode button, and that will basically reduce the sort of clutch wear when it's in drive mode or auto mode. To put it back into drive, you click D here. If you put in paddle shift here, you put in first. There are a set of traffic lights here, so ideally what you want to do is either click the neutral button there, or put the car into neutral mode by flicking both paddle shifts at the same time, like that. If you do it again, it will say gearbox in neutral and have the sort of Volvo warning chime there. But yeah, that just sort of, again, prolongs the life of the clutch. Some sort of signs of clutch wear would also be, you don't particularly get clutch slip in these. If it's detected, it will just not want to shift at that certain point in time. So around higher RPMs, if the car is really delayed in shifting, that's when you'll notice sort of clutch wear. But yeah, you do need sort of AMDS diagnostic software to determine, to do the clutch test and get a clutch wear index. You also have the kiss point, biting point, which again in learn mode does that. I think it does actually in learn mode slightly wear the clutch a fractional amount, because it is sort of adjusting the biting point and recalibrating. It's almost self-adjusting really, the clutch, just like in a manual car. And you also have to be careful. Another tip is be careful using the plastic key instead of a glass ECU, because what happens is, I've noticed, even if you try and stick any objects like stickers or like paper on top of the glass key here, obviously, you know, it is quite, you know, can effectively damage the gearbox, because basically what will happen is if there's any tolerance between the key and it's not in ignition properly, the car will be constantly burning the clutch in that learn mode, as it's not situated right in ignition and it's not fully, you know, doesn't know what it's doing. The plastic keys, unfortunately, the rubber on the buttons gets worn out, and what will happen is that exact problem, the tolerance will actually be, instead of being too much and sort of getting stuck, if anything, the glass key's fine, because if you stick anything on top, it just gets stuck in the hole here. But plastic keys, it ends up slipping out of this hole and wrecking the gearbox if you do leave it, you know, for a cold start in the morning. Obviously someone did that and they ended up wrecking their clutch, because for about half an hour or so almost, the thing was constantly, you know, screwing up a bit, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, effectively, it's a very good gearbox for SportShift 2 when, you know, you get used to it. And yeah, it does have a bit of that iconic Ferrari style thump to it. Again, I'll mention, like in the previous videos, you do have the Ferrari F1, the Maserati, they called it the Cambio Corsa, which was their renamed version of the F1, and also MC Shift. Alfa Romeo's Celespeed, Duo Select, Q-Tronic, BMW's SMG, DCT, and you also had the Audi R-Tronic, which were all iterations of the automated manual sort of concept. And like I said, the easiest way to tell is if you don't have a park gear. But another thing to mention is when you put the car in neutral and obviously put handbrake on and turn it off, you will hear a click, and that is the parking pin engaging. So they do have an actual parking pin which locks the gearbox like a regular auto, but it's just not a physical park gear. But again, another feature I forgot to mention almost, on the SportShift 2 we had the addition of block shifting, which effectively meant if I put the car in 6th right now, what we can do is go from 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd in rapid succession sequentially. So effectively we've got really good optimal shifting, downshifting, very rapid downshifting as well. Doesn't feel as much quick upshifting, but more or less rapid succession in downshifting, which is I think the main thing in one of these 7-speed gearboxes. The extra ratio feels a bit nicer as well on the motorway. I think always having an extra gear helps. But they're phenomenal cars to drive, manual or sport shift. On the manual cars, we have the sport button, instead of up here, we have it down here. And on the Touchtronic cars, sort of the same. We also had Touchtronic, which was the ZF iteration of gearboxes. So the ZF, the Touchtronic 1 was the ZF5 gearbox in the DB7 Vantage, the V12s. We also had the Touchtronic 2, which was in the DB9s, all the way up until 2015-16 with the haptic dash models. That was the ZF6 torque converter. And then we had the final iteration of the Touchtronic 3, which was the ZF8 gearbox found in the later, very late Rapids, sort of mid to late Rapide S and Vanquish Mark II models, which they did actually put also in the Mark II Vantages, and also the following current DBSs, the sort of Mark III DBS and Mark III Vanquish, and also the DB11s had the Touchtronic 3, and I'll do a video on that shortly, because we do have a lovely white one in stock. But yeah, hopefully this gave you guys a bit of insight into the SportShift 2 gearbox and sort of how to use it and optimize clutch life on them, because you know it is sort of a big thing when you are buying one of these robot manual cars. You do have to take good care. One last thing as well, you have ASM hoses and pipes, which basically are rubber hoses which go to the ASM module of a gearbox and provide it with hydraulic fluid or pressure, and these pipes start to corrode, and you need to take care of them and sort of replace them after a while, because if they start leaking fluid, you lose pressure in the gearbox, which in effect means the gearbox will become inoperative, and especially if it's reached its maximum clutch wear limit as well, which effectively stops the gearbox from working, because like I said, it doesn't so much rely on clutch slip. It's an electronic gearbox, so if it detects anything really within its parameters or computer modules, it won't work, you know, out of those parameters. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.